Hi, Team Judgment here, actually. I would like to explain, and because a buddy asked me to do this for him also, how Yu-Gi-Oh! Is played. Well, here's the thing. The first thing to start off is the phases. The way the game is played is there's a total of 6 phases. There is draw phase, standby phase, main phase 1, battle phase, main phase 2, end phase. The way they work is when you start off a game, you have a total of, if you're not going first, you have a total of 5 cards. When you have your 5 cards, when it's your turn, or if you're going first, you have, here's like a hand, and then you draw your 6th card. Every turn you draw 1 card, but you can draw more depending on what cards you play. So that's how that works. Your standby phase only really makes sense for chaining certain cards, which I'll go into later on. And it makes sense for cards like Tree-Born Frog, where they work in the standby phase. Main phase 1. What you can do in main phase 1 is once per turn, you're allowed to normal summon a monster. That's any monster that's level 4 or lower. If it's 5 or 6, you have to do 1 tribute. And if it's 7 or 8, it's 2 tributes, and anything higher is 3. So, you cannot go summon and then go tribute to summon. You just can't do that. You can, but you can go summon, and then if it stays on the field for 1 turn, next turn you can use your other normal summon to summon. Or what you can do is, same thing as you could set monsters, where they don't know. There is no such thing as putting monsters face up. I know in the show they used to do that, but it's not like that. So you can do is, unless the monster states it. You could set monsters, and it's kind of like a hidden guess game, because they don't know what they're going to run into. Because certain monsters have flip effects, which can actually damage them. But what you do is you can also set, and you can also tribute set if you'd like to also. Some cards, though, you can special summon. You can special summon as many times you want as long as the cards state it. Certain cards say you can't special summon, like Pot of Duality, for instance, but I'll go into that later on. Cards like this, Gates, where its effect is every time I can remove 1 fiend from my grave, discard 1 fiend to draw 1 card. So, for instance, if this was in my grave, I can go remove to discard gold right here to draw, and gold's effect activates, because certain cards you have certain effects. For gold's, if you want to see it, it's this card is I have a little bad camera quality, but it says if this card is discarded from your hand to the grave, you could special summon it, because it's not discarded as a cost. If it gets discarded as a cost, you can't. I'll go into details with that later on also, in another video. So, you can special summon as many times as you'd like. If this can special summon, you can special it. But you only can normal summon once per turn, unless you play cards that stop you from normal summoning more than once, like, for instance, double summon, which lets you normal summon once more that turn. After that, when it comes to spells and trap this is a field spell, of course. For a normal spell, I'll pull out, so it makes it easier. Because it's a field spell, you can play the field spell. You can only have 1 field spell on the field, so if your opponent has a field spell and you play it, it dies instantly. Yours comes the new active one. You can also set a field spell. If you set it, your opponent doesn't know what it is, but if they have one played and you set it, theirs doesn't die, it just sits there. But then once you activate it, you can activate it only on your turn, theirs dies. When it comes to activating spell cards, you can activate them on your turn unless the card states it. But certain ones you can activate on your opponent's turn, like a quick play spell. For instance, hang on, I have one, I believe. Let me see if I can pull it out for you. Here we go. Mystical Space Typhoon. The difference is, you can see on here, there's nothing, but here you got that little lightning bolt. That means it's a quick play. What it means is on your opponent's turn and on your turn, you can play this spell in regards to any other thing by chaining it. The way I'll explain a lot more what chaining does, but it allows it, and that's one of the types of spells. I'll go through all the types of spells in another video, of course. This is just my introduction video of how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And then I'm going to go into further detail. A buddy asked me to do this because he never played before, and he wanted me to teach him, and I figured why not help teach everybody else while I'm at it. Because the people don't want to play and they want to learn. So, let's say once you go through your first main phase, you can also set back rows, which are trap cards. When you do that, you just set them. They cannot be activated during that turn, unless, of course, they state it. But when you set them, you can also, like during your opponent's turn, you can activate it at any time in regards to something which can help you out later on. So most people, they'll usually go summon, or they'll do a big play depending on what they have in their hand. They'll set, and that's their main phase one, because first player cannot attack. First turn cannot attack. So then you'd say go or pass, and then it's their turn. Then they would draw a card. They would go. Then they can go into their battle phase. What it is after you go through battle phase, you go instantly into main phase 2, which then allows you to set more back rows, or if you haven't summoned, summon a monster or anything during that turn until you go into end phase. Once it goes to end phase, it's your next person's turn and they draw. Each player only has 8,000 life points. The life points that are generated from the attack, so it's 1,400. If he took it, they'd be at 6,600. But if they had certain card, but what it is if I attack, for instance, let's get something big, Grapha. If I have him in defense mode somehow, and I attack into it, Grapha's defense is 18. So he doesn't die, but I would take the 400 because it's the difference. And then Grapha would still stay alive. If it was someone like Gold, or Snow, who's got 0 defense, you would attack into it. Since it's 0 defense, it would just die and go to the graveyard. The way the deck runs is, each deck can have a minimum. They have to have a minimum of at least 40 cards, and a maximum of 60. And then you have at least a 15 card side extra deck, which is like your Exceeds, your Synchros, which I'll go into later on, and at least a 15 card. It has to be well, you can have like 13 or 12 of your extra deck, depending, but 15's the max. With your side deck, you have to have 15 exact, no more, no less, so you can side in against other opponents to stop them. Like if you want to put a bunch of meta cards in, depending on what people are running, you can easily do that, so you can maybe help your deck win against the opponent. The way siding works is most tournaments consist of best out of 3. So after the first game, if you win, both of you and your opponent can side deck cards in from cards out. Like, you can't just put all 15 in. If you put all 15 in, you got to take 15 out of your deck. And then you would just take them out of the sleeves and put them in the new ones, or if you have the same sleeves, just switch them out, and there you go. The way the ban list works, I'd have to put a link in the description, but only certain cards are banned, which means you cannot use them at all. Certain cards are limited, which means you only can use them at 1 copy because they're just that good. Certain cards are semi-limited, where it's just to create more balance, which means you only can use 2 copies, and then if it says unlimited, you can use 3. That's just the way the game works. There really isn't much to it. Before a game usually starts, what you do is you take your deck, you and your opponents, you'll shuffle your deck back and forth, and when you're done shuffling, you give it to each other. It's just common courtesy, and it's called cut. Where if I would have got his deck, I would take it. You could shuffle it, or however you want, but be careful, don't hurt the guy's cards. I mean, people pay a lot of money for this. Or you could just do a simple cut where you take half the deck, put it there, and put the other half on top. That way you know your opponent's not cheating. Some people, they are known for stacking, but if they get caught, they're banned from tournaments, so yeah. You will always have a judge at tournaments, so if you ever have questions, trust me, don't feel bad to ask. If you don't know, who cares? You know, you're just learning, so don't worry. If you're also looking for a way to get better at Yu-Gi-Oh! Before you even go to tournaments, try the website called Dueling Network. It's www.duelingnetwork.com. You can make a free account there and then play on there. It's just it's easy people to face. Some people are hard, don't get me wrong, but you know, put on there and put in a check mark, you know, just learning the game maybe help me out, and people will come in and maybe help you. I mean, people are nice like that, but then there are people that are rude that'll come in just to beat you. That's the way it is. I'm going to actually get off this video right now, and I'm going to go make a couple extra ones explaining a lot more into detail of different stuff, but this was just a basics. If you'd like to see any more, please let me know, and have a great day.